It addresses something that's a very big plot hole, I think, so to speak, in the Yosef story. I don't know if they address this in Technicolor Dreamcoat, but there is the question that one can ask, and the Ramban's going to bring up another bigger question, I think. But what exactly are Yosef's motives when he's doing all this shtick with the brothers and saying they're spies and I don't know whatever else he does? Sorry, So why exactly? What's his motivation behind it? Is it just revenge? Is he just messing with them? Is he just trying to? So that's an approach, and how exactly it accomplishes that, we'll see. But the Ramban's going to address this problem. I think he's the first one to do so, and within his approach of trying to explain what exactly Yosef's motivations are in everything he does to the brothers in Egypt. So he's also going to bring up a very important question that many others begin to ask after him and give their own approaches. We'll go through a couple of them tonight. So we start with the Ramban in Perek Mem Beis Pasuk Tes. So this is, I think, in next week's parsha already. This is Yosef meeting up with his brothers when they don't realize that Yosef is Yosef, right? I think Rashi explains to us that Yosef looked very different because he was younger at the time when he was sold, and now he's changed in appearance significantly, whereas the brothers, they look pretty much the same. They were already older, and Yosef recognized them. So Yosef is, trying to take advantage of this situation. But when he first sees them, Vayizkor Yosef es hachalamos asher chalam lahem. So that's the quote in the pasuk. Yosef started to remember the dreams that he had concerning them. Ramban, quoting Rashi, says Alehem, concerning the brothers. And Yosef, when he saw his brothers bowing down to him, he started realizing, well, my dreams, the ones that I had earlier, of the sheaves of grain bowing down to me, those are being fulfilled. Lashon Rashi, that's what Rashi says. Ulafidati, and Ramban says, according to my own opinion, Shadavar behefach. It's actually the other way around. Ki yomer hakasav kiber os Yosef es echav mishtachavim lo. It seems from the phrasing of the pasuk that Yosef is realizing, as they bow down to him, Zakar kol hachalamos asher chalam lahem. He remembered all of the dreams he had had. V'yeda shalom niskayim echad mehem b'pam hazos. He realized at no point, including this one, had his dreams been fulfilled in any way. Ki yodea b'pisranan, because Yosef knew the interpretation of his dreams. Ki kol echav yishtachavu lo b'tchila min hachalom harishon. He saw in his dream that all of his brothers would be bowing down to him. V'hinei anachnu ma'almim alumim. Yosef says, I saw we were all together. We were gathering sheaves. Ki anachnu. The Ramban says that word "we" is specific. Oh yeah, we're in the middle of the first paragraph. So Yosef sees that the word when Yosef says the word anachnu, we were all gathering sheaves. Yirmoz lachol echav echad asar. He's referring to all of his brothers, all 11 of the brothers besides him. Upam shenis yishtachav lo hashemesh v'hayareach. In the second dream, Yosef had that all of the stars and the sun and the moon were also banged down to him. Echad asar kochavim, the 11 stars. Min hachalom hasheni. That's in the second dream. V'kevan shelo ra'a Binyamin imayim. At this moment, right, Binyamin's not with the other brothers. Yosef sees he's not around. So Yosef devised a scheme by which he could accuse them, right, of being spies. That they would then have to come back bringing Binyamin with them. In order to fulfill for the first time that first dream. Nothing has been fulfilled yet, even though they're bowing down to him now. It's not all the brothers. It's only 10, not 11. So the Ramban sees Yosef as not just realizing after the fact, oh, my dreams are being fulfilled, like Rashi says, but he said Yosef is being reminded at this point of his dreams, but they haven't been fulfilled yet. And now Yosef is going to take, he's going to start taking action towards making sure they become fulfilled. That's the Ramban's approach as to what's going on here. Al Kain, the Ramban continues in the next paragraph. At this point, Yosef did not want to reveal his identity yet. What's so funny?
Well, that's a question which arises later. So he's arising. Oh, I guess it's not later because we're not up to that yet. But the question is, why doesn't he tell them? So Ramban's answering that for us.
Yeah.
He didn't tell them because it wasn't time. This is how he knows it wasn't time.
So, right. So the Ramban is saying we're in the second paragraph right now. The reason why Yosef didn't want to announce his identity yet, and he doesn't say at this point, go get my father. And he doesn't say get wagons and bring the entire family over like he says in the second encounter. Had he done so, his father would have come immediately without a doubt. Now after the first dream gets fulfilled, when Binyamin's there and all the brothers together bow down to him, that's when he said, okay, bring Yaakov, bring our father, and then the second dream will be fulfilled.
So this is a clear distinction to Chalamat of Para, where he said Shnei Chalamat Chalam Echad.
Right. Yosef saw these as being different.
Parallel. This is different. These are
in the first dream, there was no indication of parents bowing down at all, whereas in the second dream there was. So Yosef wanted to fulfill each one at a time. In the first dream he wanted to fulfill with all the brothers coming and not with any of the parents or the rest of the family. And in the second dream, Yaakov can come too, and then everything will be fulfilled. So the Ramban continues, if that wasn't so, if this was not the case, Yosef is doing a tremendous sin towards his father. He's causing Yaakov to unnecessarily wait more days without Shimon, right? Shimon's being taken hostage in the first encounter. All the brothers go back home. And also he's withholding himself from his father. Even if Yosef's intention was to cause his brothers a little tsaras, maybe a little bit more understandable, right? They weren't so nice to him in the past. How could Yosef not have any pity for his father? But now everything makes sense, everything's great. Yosef was trying to fulfill the dreams that he knew they would be fulfilled. So this was all on Yosef's part, an active attempt to make the dreams be fulfilled. And that's why he did
for Ramban, it's particularly important that he still didn't tell them here, because the question goes back, why for so many years did he not tell Yaakov anything?
So
he's saying here, this is how Ramban learns. He learns it backwards. If he still didn't tell them now, and he's got 10 of them, then for sure, why would he have told them before?
Right. He's going to touch on that, which is what I think the bigger question is. We're going to get to that in a few paragraphs. But the bigger question is, forget during this time period in between the first trip of the brothers and the second, where Shimon's being held hostage, Yosef doesn't contact his father at any point while he's in Egypt. One would wonder why. While he's even a servant in Potiphar's house, one could make the argument that he would be able to, right? Certainly when he's second in command of all of Egypt, he had the ability and he had the means to do so. So why didn't he? That's the Ramban's question. He's starting to address it here. So we'll continue, and he'll say it more outright soon. Now the Ramban says, what about the incident concerning the cup? He made it look like Binyamin had stolen a goblet, a valuable one that belonged to him, in order to have a pretext to keep Binyamin behind. So why did he do that? So the Ramban says, Lo shetiya kavanas letzara. This wasn't with intention to cause the brothers pain. He thought perhaps they had some type of hatred towards Binyamin. He thought maybe they were jealous of him, that their father loved him as a son of Rachel more than them, just like they were jealous concerning Yosef himself. Or perhaps Yosef began to feel, that Binyamin began to feel that their hands, the brothers' hands, were somewhat involved in Yosef's absence. It could be that would have caused a big fight on the way home, that at that point you had the brothers starting to speak a lot in Egypt about the fact that all this trouble is coming upon us because we did what we did to our brothers, and maybe Binyamin overheard some of that conversation. Maybe he started to pick up a little bit on what had been going on. So Yosef was suspecting that perhaps Binyamin would, start up with him on the way home. Say, what exactly did he do to my brother? I'm starting to get some indication that there was some foul play here, and it could have caused a tremendous mess. So Binyamin, he didn't want Binyamin to go back home with them. And perhaps they would send their hand against him. They would fight him. They would do something to him before Yosef actually was able to determine whether or not they in fact loved Binyamin. So that's the Ramban's approach as to why Binyamin was kept behind, or at least before the whole incident with Yehuda. And he says, "Ani Yosef ha'od avichai." But just one more paragraph of the Ramban. This is where he touches on your question. So he says, "V'chein ani omer shekol enyanam ha'ilu hayu b'Yosef mechachmaso bepesanach alamos." I'd like to say that this entire matter, this is Yosef coming from his own wisdom. This is his approach to fulfill the interpretation of his dreams. Because otherwise you have to ask yourself a question. When Yosef was living many days in Egypt, certainly when he was second in command in the entire house of Egypt, Why didn't he send even a letter? Sounds like a Jewish mother. Could have sent the letter to comfort his father. It's not like this is a far journey even. Hebron's only 6 days away. 6-day journey from Egypt. And Hebron was where Yaakov was living at the time. Even if it was a year's long journey, it would have been fit to go and do so, to send some message to his father. And perhaps then Yaakov would have redeemed Yosef for whatever the price. But it must be that Yosef saw that the bowings that would happen to him, with Yaakov bowing down to him and all of his sons, Yosef saw that couldn't possibly couldn't happen in Eretz Yisrael itself. So Yosef had hoped that in Egypt itself, this Yosef would find success in causing his dreams to be fulfilled. Yosef certainly saw that was how events could begin to form and take place when he saw Paro's dreams, and he saw what was going to happen to Egypt in the future, that Egypt was going to become the source of food for the entire world for a long period of time. He saw the potential of things coming together where the brothers would be in Egypt and the entire family would be, and then Yosef would be bowed down to. So that's the Ramban's approach. He says that basically Yosef's motive throughout this entire story is to fulfill his dreams, right? And he says, and that solves the problem as to why Yosef didn't contact his father the entire time that he was in Egypt until now. Does that sit well with us? Yeah.
Why was it so important to fulfill the dreams exactly?
Right. I think that's a good question. I think there's a lot of questions you could ask. So what's the significance of fulfilling dreams?
Like weigh one thing against the other.
Right.
Father, I haven't seen in 20 years.
Right. And he thinks you're dead.
Yeah.
Right? It's difficult. This is the reason why I think this is building up a Ramban. We're going to go through a lot of other approaches, but the Ramban's the first person to ask this question. His approach is maybe something that wouldn't sit well with all of us.
Go back to the first pasuk. Vayizkor Yosef et hachalamot asher chalam lahem. The word lahem is clearly superfluous.
Mm-hmm.
That's the opening for all of this explanation. We have Rashi. He said he explains lahem is alehem, it's about them. But even so, again, one can. It almost sounds to me as if Ramban is saying it's about them. It's about them, but it's for them. It's to their future. It's to their purpose. It's like their atid, not mine. It's not about me. I'm not the focus of the story. I'm the one who sees the stories. I'm the one who understands the stories, much as he had with in this week's parsha we have with all the dreams. It's not about me. It's about them. They're the ones who have to come to realization. They're the ones who have to do the tshuva.
So lahem you would translate as for them. The dreams that he had for them.
It's
for their
good. Again, alehem about them, but with they being the focus. The key is that it has to come back, that it's not about him. That's what the lahem is telling us. It's about, whether you accept Rashi's alehem or however one wants to, it's the intensity of the fact that Yosef realizes his dreams are not about me. They're not about him. He can't act upon them. He can't bring them about. He simply sees what's going to be. They are the ones where the active act.
How do you see this serving purpose for the brothers?
The purpose for the brothers, they had their multiple purposes which they're having, and the first is the idea that they have to come together, they have to do tshuva, that they have to. This is part of it. We don't see that yet. We see it later on, but they hadn't discussed it earlier. They had all those years. Why didn't they talk? Why didn't they tell their father what happened?
Well, they certainly had something to hide, right?
They have.
Why they didn't tell their father that?
Come to grips with it.
It seems that even if you want to say
the
tshuva, even if you want to say the tshuva in the end, it doesn't seem like Yaakov knew what had happened. It doesn't seem like that. It's not so clear if you look at the end of the Sefer, in Bereshis, it's not so clear if Yaakov ever found out about this whole thing. You could go either way on that. But in any event, so the problem is very clearly that what's the significance of interpreting of fulfilling dreams? Why is that such a big deal? And why does it outweigh not telling your father for many, many years, who thinks you're dead, that you're healthy and okay in Egypt, right? It's a difficult idea to swallow. So the Akedas Yitzchak, Rav Yitzchak Arama in the next source, so he's the one that says this question outright. So it's the next source. It says, "V'timhani mimosha kasav Rambam zal she'asa kadeshi yiskaimu chalomosav." I'm very surprised at what the Ramban writes, that Yosef's actions were to fulfill his dreams. Kimato elas lo she'yiskaimu. First of all, what purpose is there in fulfilling dreams? Shakah. Wow, you predicted things correctly. Great. Well, what does that matter? Even if there is some purpose, even if you could argue that, it's certainly not good enough of a rationale to justify sinning towards his father, not telling him that he's dead, or that he's alive, sorry, and his father is grieving for him all these years. The dreams, the one that gives dreams, he's the one that's going to give their interpretation, so to speak. God's going to take care of it. Whatever needs to happen in a dream with regards to its interpretation, God will make sure it happens. It seems that it would really be foolish for a person to make attempts actively to fulfill his dreams. These are things that happen where they're not dependent on the will of the dreamer, so to speak. So the Akedah Yitzchak says, first of all, I don't understand what the purpose is of fulfilling dreams. And second of all, even if there is some purpose, it doesn't seem to be of a value to the extent that we would, put our father through pain to that extent. So, with regards to this approach, he doesn't bring an approach; he brings a question, basically. Nechama Leibovitz, in her studies in Bereshis, so she starts to maybe indicate that there might be something to fulfilling dreams. If you look in her works, she points out a couple of examples. Most notably, I think you point out there's a in Tanakh Gidon. Gidon was somebody that was fighting the Amalekim at the time in Eretz Yisrael, and he saw that there was a tremendous encampment of them. I think poised to attack. He overhears a conversation. This isn't even his own dream. He overhears a conversation between two people. That the guy has one of the guys has a dream that a roll of barley bread rolls down the mountain into an Amaleki tent, and all the tents collapse and fall. And the other guy he's talking to says, "Oh, that's a hint that Klal Yisrael is going to win this battle." And because of that, Gideon feels inspired. And he says, "Yeah, let's go fight them," and he does, and they win. And Nechama Leibovitz, she suggests that might be, somewhat of a source. The idea of trying to fulfill dreams. That when you have a dream and it's something that seems good to fulfill, it's a havtaka almost. It's almost a promise, or even a mandate to go and fulfill it. It's a little bit different, though. Yeah.
Isn't it like a domino effect?
How so?
Like Leo, he has this dream. Well, he doesn't have the dream, but he interprets the dream, and he can only do it because Hashem is the one that's telling him about the dream. So I feel everything's coming from Hashem.
Mm-hmm.
So Hashem is directing all this. So you have the dream, he interprets, and then he becomes like a big shot, and they know that there's going to be famine in the surrounding countries, which brings them down to Egypt, and which follows through, and then we're slaves, and then we're liberated. So to me, it's like step by step. So if the dream, if you sort of put something at a filter, right? Mm-hmm. You don't interpret the dream, or you bypass something, it's going to affect the future. And isn't this the way Hashem wanted it? This is...
You're saying Yosef it makes sense that he's trying to cause the dreams to be fulfilled. It's part of a process.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So
that was apparently the motivation the Ramban was alluding to. That there's this idea of if there's a certain destiny that the Jewish people are supposed to take, and it would be indicated as such, right? I'm sure Abraham told Yitzchak, and Yitzchak told Yaakov, and Yaakov told his sons that Hashem said at one point, our people are going to end up being in Mitzrayim. We're going to be enslaved there for many years, and we're going to eventually get out and come back.
Never says Mitzrayim.
That's
never
true.
says Mitzrayim.
You're right. But the idea of an enslavement,
right.
Whatever elements are there in the story that Hashem tells Abraham, so you can imagine maybe there is something to wanting to fulfill it, and that's what the Ramban seems to indicate.
When he told his dream to his father about the sun and the moon and the stars, so Rashi says there's a portion of all dreams that is not true.
Yes,
it's not true.
Yes, Rashi quotes that, and but at the same time it says in the Psukim, that Yaakov at the same time kept the matter in mind, right?
Right. But, so if that's the case, why didn't Yosef take it to heart? That maybe there's something in the dream that's not true? Because it seems the Rambam is saying, well, everything in the dream is true, better fulfill it.
Well, certainly something can't be true, right? And that's what the Rashi points out, that Yaakov is pointing out, that the one element of shtus in the dream, the part of the dream that's not true, is certainly if the moon was meant to represent Yosef's mother, Rachel, that couldn't possibly happen. Rachel is dead. People don't come back to life until the Mashiach. So Yaakov was pointing out, and some say that was almost Yaakov's attempt to diffuse the conflict, right? Because at the same time, it said the Pesukim say that Yaakov was nevertheless keeping the dream in mind. He was waiting to see if this would actually play out. So even though he was rejecting it, at least when he was having a conversation with Yosef, they may have just been his way of diffusing the situation.
It is in Yosef's interest that the dreams come true.
For sure. Yeah. Who wants to be in charge? Mm-hmm.
Can we go to an earlier thought that you taught with Masev, what Siman Banim?
Uh-huh.
Does Ramban learn that the earlier dreams of the Avot, and some of them are dreams, particularly if it's a dream with the Brit Ben Abtarim, if it's a dream. We know Yaakov had the dream as he's coming down. Yosef is going to be the one who's going to close your eyes to work. So who does he call when he's dying? He calls Yosef. We'll do that's next week. Yet another parsha.
2 weeks from now. 3 weeks?
So it would seem that we might be able to learn that from the Avot that actually it's not Ramban, it was Rambam's approach, is that we're supposed to follow the behavior of the Avot. If the Avot endeavored to ensure the fulfillment of their dreams, and if Yosef understands that, then he's obliged to ensure the fulfillment of his dreams. Ramban makes the comment above here, says there's no way that they're going to bow down to me in Eretz Yisrael. So all of these become part of what his obligation is, and therefore not telling Yaakov is part of it. Well,
with regards to Ma'aseh Avos Siman Lebanon, have we ever seen in concept, the Ramban talks about how they're a remez, they're a hint to what's going to happen in the future. But did we ever see at any point the Avos therefore making efforts to make things happen?
That's what I'm raising to think about.
So I don't think we saw anything in that direction. This would be an indication that maybe we should learn in that direction, that it's almost a mandate that you should go and do these things.
Is there some relationship between Nevuah and Chalom? Again, how did they have their Nevuah? Was it in the form of Chalom? Yes, it was. We know the Avot, their Nevuah was
in the form of Chalom. It's very important to acknowledge that those are, the Gemara talks about how they're very different levels. Chalom is nothing compared to Nevuah. That's something to keep in mind also, right? That if Yosef is pursuing action based on these dreams, he feels pretty strongly about the veracity of them. But in our tradition, we know that dreams are something. They're something if you certainly if you make them out to be something, but they are nowhere near the level of assurance that Nevuah is.
Isn't this the story of the brothers when the father dies, and one brother says, "My father came to me in a dream and said I should be the Rebbe," and the other brothers say, "If our father wanted you to become the Rebbe, he would have come to us in a dream and told us."
Right.
Because the father says Yehuda should be the king.
Yes.
Not Yosef. This dream reflects a yearning for power on the part of Yosef.
Right, so in some ways it could also be interpreted to be, wishful thinking in some way, as opposed to just being inspired. But Yosef
certainly doesn't think it that way.
Right. That's our Ramban's approach. It has its issues that we just talked about. I want to bring up just one source that I think really addresses the question. Even if you go with Professor Leibovitz's approach, it's going to be hard to answer up this Gemara. There's a Gemara in Brachos Yod Amud Beis. It's the first one that came to my mind when we were talking about this issue of wanting to fulfill dreams or not. So talking about Chizkiyahu HaMelech. Chizkiyahu was on his deathbed. He eventually was healed and he lived for many years more. But what was happening at that time was Vayamim Ha'im Chala Chizkiyahu Lamus. Chizkiyahu was sick and he was about to die. Vayavo Elav Yeshayahu ben Amos Hanavi. Isaiah Yeshaya, he came over to do Bikur Cholim. And more than that, Vayomer Elav, Yeshaya said to him, Ko Amar Hashem Tzavakos Sav Leveska Ki Meis Ata V'lo Techye. Go command your house concerning, I don't know what to do, write your will, etc., because you're going to die and you're not going to live. So the Gemara asks, Ki Meis Ata V'lo Techye. What does it mean you're going to die and you're not going to live? Just tell me one or not the other. I'd be fine. Usually when people are dead, they're not living. Right? So Ma'ata B'olam Hazeh. So when he says, you will die, Meisata, you will die, ba'olam hazeh. That's referring to this world. V'lo techya, you won't live, la'olam haba, even in the next world. That's what Yeshaya was communicating to Chizkiyahu. Amar lei, he said to him, "My kulei hai. Well, what's the big deal? What did I do so bad?" Amar lei, Yeshaya said back, "Mishum de lo asakta b'peri v'rivya." You didn't have any children. You didn't work on that at all. It's a big mitzvah. Amar lei, Chizkiyahu said back, "Mishum de chaza li beruach hakodesh denafki minai benin de lo ma'alu." Said, "No, I didn't do that because I saw through my ruach hakodesh, which he had, that my children were destined to be bad people, wicked people. Chizkiyahu's son is Menashe, one of the most wicked kings of Klal Yisrael." Amar lei, Yeshaya says back to him, why are you getting yourself involved in the secrets of the Ribono Shalom? That which you're commanded to do, that's your job, go do it. That which is pleasing to God, he'll do. You do your basic responsibilities, and whatever has to happen in terms of prophecy or destiny, whatever it is, God will make sure it happens, and if it's not supposed to happen, it's not supposed to happen, don't worry about it. So it seems pretty clear here that even with Ruach HaKodesh, forget dreams, Ruach HaKodesh, you're not supposed to use that to maybe go against what the Torah would tell you to do. So I think in this situation also you have a simple instance of basic kibbud av, right? Tell your father you're alive, he's worried about you, he's losing hair over this. And Yosef doesn't say anything. Even if it's to fulfill the dreams or for whatever reason Yosef feels that this is something that has to get done, I think the basic approach that we have to these kinds of matters is do your job. Don't worry about getting into cheshbonos. Be simple in front of God your Lord. Don't get involved in all these kinds of things. So that's maybe a flaw in the Rambam's approach. Right?
Because Yaakov was a little weak on Kibbud Avim as well.
Sorry?
His father was a little weak on...
It's true, right? Two wrongs don't make a right, though.
And his grandfather decided not to tell his father as well.
It's also Midrashim, right? The Midrash says, why was he deserving of such pain that he didn't know about Yosef being alive all this time? It says because he didn't do proper kibbud aveim. He was, staying in Yeshiva Shem. Oh, not in Yeshiva Shem Eber. He didn't get demerits for that. But his time at Lavan's house
doing
and
business
coming
at
back.
Lavan's house.
Right. That he got in trouble for. So every year that he was there, he had a year of pain with not knowing about Yosef's whereabouts. But in any event, that might
Yitzhak was alive at this time.
Yes, there are Midrashim that seem to indicate that Yitzchak knew about this whole thing, and he also hid it for some reason. Also hard to explain, but those are Midrashim. Let's not get involved in those. But in any event, that Gemara that says that he had that pain, that explains why up in Shemaim it was decreed that he should get it, but that doesn't explain Yosef's actions. Right? You don't go punching him in the face and say, he deserved it. I mean, we don't say that that's okay. So similarly here, it's hard to justify why it would be okay to just, for the sake of fulfilling dreams, violate a basic mitzvah of kibbud av. So the Abarbanel, we'll say things outside, I think, at this point. The Abarbanel gives an approach. This is, I think, the what we call the more mainstream approach. As we mentioned earlier, Yosef's intention was to have his brothers do a full-fledged tshuva process. That his intention was to make all these events come about, culminating with Binyamin's life being on the line, so to speak, of possibly living a life of servitude in Egypt, putting them in the same position, putting the brothers in the same position as they were earlier, right? Earlier they decided to send their brother down to slavery, and here they have a choice to either make that happen again or not, show their allegiance to their father, to the Bnei Rachel, and I guess be okay with their father's choice, that maybe they're the favorites. So that's what Yosef was engineering this whole time, and eventually it was fulfilled. And at that point, when Yehuda says, either take me instead of Binyamin, or I'm going to fight all of you, and that's when Yosef realized, they did a full tshuva, and he says, Ani Yosef ha'od avichai. That's the approach of the Abarbanel.
Full tshuva?
Huh?
Full tshuva?
Full tshuva, in some respect. That's what he says. Well, why not?
Because the essence of the issue is, who's a thief in the story, right? The Yosef has set the brothers up 3 times as thieves.
Yeah.
Twice all the brothers, and Binyamin the 3rd time. Right? At no point do the brothers say the sons of Rachel are not thieves. They say we'll put our lives in their place. They say we'll go to war with you and to defend him. But they don't say he's innocent.
You're saying a full tshuva would mean actually saying Binyamin's right? Or
the whole issue is, are they thieves? Are they thieves and sons of thieves? That's the accusation, right?
It's an interesting
And
point.
they actually accept the idea that Binyamin stole it. Right? They accept the idea. They say, their position is, we don't care if he stole it or not, you can't have him. I won't let you do it to my father.
That's because that's the
we'll destroy the
they have to
country.
be talking on.
We'll destroy the country, or I'll give myself in his place. But at no point do they say, hey, you set us up twice, and you set him up too. None of us are thieves, and he's not a thief either. They never come to his defense.
I think on a certain wavelength, if you're talking to the second in command in Egypt, that's not an argument you can have. It happens to be the Abarbanel says, I only quoted you a part of it, but when he goes to the answer more at length, Yosef actually did specific actions. He left the money of the food in each bag, even the second time around as well, so that the brothers would know that there was foul play going on, and that they wouldn't actually suspect Binyamin of having stolen, but they would realize.
But that's the whole point. Right. That's actually the whole point. What the message Joseph sent to the brothers is, I can fix this. I can set them up. I can set you up.
Yeah.
They got back to their father, and they were terrified when they saw the money. Right? What's going to happen when we see this man's face?
Yeah.
Right? Specifically, he framed them. And then he framed them a second time as thieves. And they came back with double the money to prove that they weren't thieves. The whole thing.
So what would have constituted a full tshuva? Claiming innocence?
A full tshuva would have been to, and it's in the Chumash. There's a place, I'll find it for you later. I don't want to, but full tshuva would have been to say, look, you framed us, you framed him. He's innocent. Now, if you're still going to do it, you can take me, or I'm going to go to war with you. But at some point, the responsibility was to say that Rachel's children are not thieves. Rachel is not a thief, and they're not the children of thieves. And they never did it. And that's why Yosef cries on Binyamin's shoulders.
I'm sorry, Rachel is a thief.
Because it's incomplete.
That's a good point.
She is a thief, and Binyamin is the son of a thief, so he's a thief.
No, he's not a thief because he's the son of a thief.
Abarbanel actually points out. Binyamin didn't really steal it, that's for sure.
He didn't steal it.
It's not that he stole it. He's suspected of...
Right. The Abarbanel himself says that.
From a family of thieves, he's suspected.
Yeah, the Abarbanel says that Yosef
he's not a thief.
Yeah.
And they've been framed. He intentionally framed them. So that they would realize.
I think we can point out a lot of problems with this approach, and we're going to. The one approach I really want to get to, and it's not on this source sheet at all, because it's actually part of a longer essay, and it's actually a fairly new approach, which is why it's so interesting that nobody's thought of this before. Rabbi Yoel ben Nun, he is a rabbi currently alive in Eretz Yisrael, teaches at the Herzog Teachers College, lives in the Gush area. So he has an approach where he basically doesn't understand this Abarbanel, because there's a lot of holes in this storyline also. So he has first a number of questions. He says, again, does this really justify the mistreatment of his father? Right? Even if you want to say it's for the purposes of the brothers doing tshuva, is that really a reason not to tell your father that you're alive for all these years? Still doesn't seem to answer the question too well. Second, it seems that Yosef, according to the Abarbanel, was betting on Yehuda responding in the way he did, and that would have been, that's the magic answer, that's tshuva, everything's great. Considering the fact that Yosef himself does not know that Yehuda pledged his life in place of Binyamin to Yaakov right before they went on this journey, it's a very far-fetched conclusion for Yosef to have arranged for. It's very convoluted. It's hard to imagine that Yosef was expecting this to happen, or at least hoping this would happen. Another point he brings up is, let's say the brothers had said, we're stuck, okay, you got Binyamin, he's yours, guess that's the way it works. Would that be an indication, really, that they hadn't done tshuva? Not necessarily. I mean, the circumstances are very different. It's one thing if you actively sell your brother, that's a very big avera, and at that point they could have tremendous love for Binyamin, they could have tremendous regret for everything they had done, but when a monarch comes and takes one of their brothers, it's not the same situation whatsoever, right? It's not really so indicative. If they had failed the test, that would have shown that they hadn't done tshuva. There's also the element of in Yehuda's speech. Right? What's Yehuda's speech to Yosef? The content of it is not, we're very sorry that we sold our brother in the past, and now we really don't want to make sure we do it again. We feel really bad about it. Yehuda's speech is entirely about his father's kavod, his father's well-being. He said, our father's he's gonna plot if Binyamin is not coming back with us. So that also does not seem to indicate tshuva. That doesn't seem to indicate success in Yosef's test. And the most important point is, at the end of Sefer Bereshis, right, the brothers, they approach Yosef and they say, according to most Mefarshim, this is a lie, a made-up story. So, Dad said you have to be nice to us because otherwise he'd be very upset. So it seems that at the end of the story...
They actually send the messenger. They don't do it themselves.
Right, even more.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't seem like after this episode everybody's on good terms again. It doesn't seem to be the case. So if this is all a test for tshuva, that doesn't work out too well. So because of that, he doesn't like the Abarbanel, he doesn't like Ramban also for the same issues that we mentioned earlier. His approach is like amazing. And the reason why I'm doing it now, it's only Parshas Vayeshev. We're not really getting into these issues until for another couple of weeks. Is if you follow this approach, starting from this week's Parsha, going straight through, it just opens up your eyes. It's really cool. He points out in Parshas Vayeshev, this week's Parsha, Yosef is sent to his brothers, sent to his brothers by Yaakov, who were very far away at the time, not anywhere near home. Yaakov, who knows right now that there's some tension going on between the two groups, he sends Yosef there anyways. Yosef obediently goes, probably not so sure why he's being sent there. It's not exactly the best timing, the best circumstances. He even goes to one place, finds out they're not there, he goes to another place. Once he gets there, once he meets up with the brothers, they throw a sack on him, they put him in a pit, they sell him to the Egyptians. At this point, Yosef's on a wagon on the way to Egypt, and what exactly is he thinking? Keep in mind, he does not know that the brothers are going to dip his coat into blood, pretend he's dead. He has no idea that that's happening. He doesn't know why his father sent him on this crazy mission. And Yosef also starts to notice a pattern. He thinks, my grandfather Avram Avinu, he had 2 kids, Yishmael and Yitzchak. And the Kadosh Baruch Hu, through Sarah, told him that, one son is the keeper, the other's got to go. And Avram listened. Yitzchak Avinu, he had 2 kids, Yaakov and Esav. One was eventually chosen, the other rejected. What's going on with me? Maybe I'm rejected. Maybe my father was in on this whole thing. That's what Yosef's starting to think. He knows there was all this conflict in the past couple of weeks with his brothers, and maybe they said something to their father that made him reconsider Yosef being the favorite son. And Yosef gets sent down the river. Maybe that's what's going on with Yosef. First of all, that answers the biggest question we have, right? Why didn't Yosef contact his father all this time? Why would he?
It's also a theory of why the brothers made the decision they did. That in previous generations there was a bad seed. And Yosef is the bad seed. He is the one who wants, like Esav, to rule over.
Yeah, they see a precedent for sending a son away.
And sometimes you have to do it for the venture to succeed.
But so keeping the focus on Yosef here is, he doesn't want to have anything to do with his father's son anymore. He thinks he's been totally abandoned, totally rejected by his father, his brothers, and that's basically all Klal Yisrael at that point. He's an outcast.
He's rejected by his father. His father gave him the tunic and all.
Right, so he was the favorite son earlier, but at the same time, he knows that he just got sent on this very strange mission to go to his brothers, whom he knows he's not on good terms with. Yaakov knows that also.
He's also told his father, I have a dream that you bowed to me.
That's true.
That could change the tone of the relationship.
But Yaakov thought of it afterwards.
Yaakov doesn't seem to be too upset about that.
Lefty has an interesting thing about this over here, that the brothers thought they had already gone through Galut and finished. So Yaakov at that point, he thought that was it. When Esav went away and all the stuff he went through prior, he thought that was it. And Yosef was the only one who really knew that he had not gone through Galut. And that's what they were going to bring over there. That's why he wanted them to come. And that's why Yaakov later thought, this is Rabbi Molesky talking, Yaakov thought later, then he realized that everything that Yosef dreamed was actually going to be true, and he's right, and not the brothers, they have not gone through Galut yet.
But the question is,
that's what happened in reality. Right?
Yeah.
What's Joseph's perception right now? Right? What's Joseph's perception right now on the way to Egypt?
Joseph said, I told my dad he's going to bow to me. Right? He just sent me on a chase to my brothers. Right?
Yeah, but the bowing was because they had to do that.
No, my point is from Yosef's point of view.
Joseph's point of view right now.
Okay.
You see how it's tenable.
Okay.
And
it actually explains even his relationship after this is all over with both his father and his brothers.
It explains a ton of things.
He never had a particularly close relationship with them.
We'll go through a couple more ideas also.
He didn't have a close relationship with his father prior? He did.
No,
He lived
after.
in a different city.
After
In Egypt they didn't live together.
But it could be Yosef thought that the brothers said something to their father before he got sold into slavery that made Yaakov maybe realize or think that Yosef was incorrect in his actions and telling on his brothers, and maybe he had a change of heart. Yosef was the favorite son, but he wasn't anymore. So there's a lot of other examples that Rabbi Nun says that this approach really puts together. I brought the Chumashim here for a reason. If everybody wants to maybe take a few out, take a look at. If you look at Perek Mem Aleph, Pasuk Nun Aleph, so it's on page 231, Yard Scroll. For a lack of time, we'll just go through the English. Or actually here, I guess the Hebrew is important. If you look at Pasuk Nun Aleph, page 230, So it says, Vayikra Yosef Hashem HaBechor Menashe. Yosef called his first son in Egypt after he becomes second in power, Menashe. Ki nashani Elokim es kol amali. Because God caused me to forget all of my troubles, ves kol beis ali, my entire father's house. Now, the other Mepharshim, grapple with this term. Well, what's going on? He's regretting having lived there. So others say that what this means is, Yosef, he was forgetting all the tsar, all the bad things that happened in the home with the brothers and all that. But Rabbi Nun says it's much simpler. He wants to have nothing to do with his father's home anymore. He thinks he's been totally abandoned, saying, I'm forgetting all this. New life, new world, new family. Forget it. Yeah? It's a very interesting approach. The kicker, I think the biggest deal is, if you look in, so now we have in Parshas Miketz, towards the very beginning, Vayigash, very beginning, when Yehuda finally confronts Yosef, right before Yosef says, Ha'od Avichai, yeah? Perek Mem Daled, Pasuk Chaf Ches. This is on page 250, or 251. Let's read the English. So this is Yehuda's whole spiel. And he's saying to Yosef, either take me or I'm going to fight you, and I'm not letting you take Binyamin. So Yehuda's giving his whole spiel. Starting in verse 28, he says, one has left me. I presume he's paraphrasing his father, that my father Yaakov, he's been very pained. He really cares about Binyamin a lot, because he had another son from the same woman, Rachel, and one has left me, I presume. And I presumed, alas, he has surely been torn to pieces, for I have not seen him since. Yehuda is explaining for the first time, Yosef's hearing this, that Yaakov thinks Yosef is dead. Yosef doesn't know this until this time, according to Rabbi Nun's approach. After the whole speech is done, that's when Yosef cries, and immediately he says, Ani Yosef Ha'od Avichai. Why break now? Why all of a sudden break?
Because he realizes he's been wrong the whole time.
Yes,
in
exactly.
his evaluation of his father.
Rabbi Nun explains that Yosef's entire motivation and all the shtick he's pulling with the brothers was apparently to try to get down to the reason as to why Yaakov sold him. Right? Trying to get to the bottom of these things. And his plan was apparently to get Binyamin, the only person he knew that was not involved in the conspiracy, who was just a kid at the time. And try to get more information as what happened in the family. Why was I rejected? That was his plan, which got interrupted in the process. He realized Yehuda gave a story all of a sudden in the middle, saying, your father, our father, who happens to be your father. I don't know that yet, but Yaakov thinks that Yosef is dead. When Yosef hears that, he realizes, my father thinks I'm dead, meaning he didn't sell me down the river. He wasn't involved in this whole plot. Mm-hmm. That's all of a sudden when he turns around and says, bring him over. I got to see him. I feel horrible for all the things I did. And it's just an amazing approach. Just the fact that there's so many things. Rabbi Nun, he gives some credence to the other approaches. He says, it's for sure, this whole process it's true, like the Abravanel says, it was a tshuva process for the brothers. Right? They eventually turned around on this, but at the same time, Yosef wasn't intending for that at all. That wasn't his plan. Yosef's plan was something else, the brothers' plan was something else, and eventually, man plans, God laughs, and everybody ends up being together in Egypt, just like Hashem promised Abraham. But everybody had their own motivations.
Can you just explain how is it that he might have thought that his father was involved in his sale when his father had given him the code
there are actually some other later scholars actually that have criticized Rabbi Nun's approach for that reason. They said, why would Yosef think that? He was the favorite. Right? I think Rabbi Nun would respond that he thinks, right, there was conflict between him and the brothers, Yosef and the brothers at that point in time, prior to him getting sold, that Yosef may have had reason to suspect that while he was the favorite, that might have changed, especially considering the circumstances in which he, came into the brothers' hands. Or Yaakov sends him for some strange reason. I don't know what the other Pashtanim will say as to what Yaakov's motive was of having Yosef visit his brothers, but it seems very fishy. When you're being carted away to Egypt and your father sent you to go see them, it's hard to
set up for it.
Right. You could understand where he got that impression.
The other thing is that it's not so clear-cut. It's not as though he loves Yaakov and doesn't love his other sons. At the end of the day, he doesn't say that Yosef is going to be the king.
Right.
He says very clearly, Yosef is wonderful, powerful, he's an awesome, all those things. Yehuda is king. It's very clear. Yehuda is king, right?
I mean, yeah, not necessarily at that stage.
At the end of his life, what I'm saying. Which means that in his own mind, Yaakov always, if he was ever going to take a position that Yosef is going to be king, it would have been at the end of his life after Yosef had proven himself to be a great king, and that he had been kind to his brothers and taken care of all this. Still at the end, he recognizes that the kingship is not with Yosef, but with Yehuda at the end of the day. And that in many ways, Yosef is a false king.
And that in many ways, because of that at least gives you a little bit of a reason to believe why Yosef thought
he's a king of Gentiles.
Uh-huh.
He's not a king of Jews. That's who Yosef is.
He plays a prominent position in leadership in Jewish history in some ways, but he's not considered the king of the kings, right?
Yeah,
so,
the kings that come from Yosef bring us to Avodah Zarah.
True.
Mashiach
ben Yosef also, there's
his dreams of Baal Chomas, they say that those dreams will bring us to Baal.
Most of this conversation takes place in Parshios after Parshas Vayeshev, but I wanted to bring it up here because this entire storyline, I think, changes in perspective. You start reading it with these lenses. So I wanted to bring it up this week.
Is this available in English as well as Hebrew?
Yes, I will. After the class, I'll send an email to everybody with links so you can get the English and Hebrew versions of Rav Binon's whole approach.
I'm a little confused.
Yes.
It says that all of Paro's advisors and magicians, they couldn't interpret the dream.
Uh-huh.
Only Yosef could interpret the dream.
Right.
So that means he has a special knack for interpreting dreams.
Okay. And
A really good knack from Ruach HaKodesh.
And therefore, you want to support the Ramban's approach?
Yeah. So therefore, he must say that same Ruach HaKodesh I must be able to interpret my own dreams.
That is what the Ramban says. I mean, we mentioned earlier, I think there are difficulties with that. Even if it is Ruach HaKodesh, there is a certain responsibility that we have to, keep the basic laws that we're supposed to, and not necessarily go after dreams, even if they're coming through Ruach HaKodesh.
So if it's Ruach HaKodesh that's helping him to interpret, then it's not him that has to tell his father.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Even if it is Ruach HaKodesh, even if it's a message from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like we saw in that example of Chizkiyahu. He had Ruach HaKodesh that his sons would be evil, and still Yeshayahu says,
by the way, it's only
do your job.
It's not his job. It's not his job to tell his father.
It's only when he
comes. do it.
It's only when he comes to Paro's dream that he identifies God as the one who interprets dreams. It seems clear up until that point that he may be thinking he's the one who's interpreting dreams. It's one of his weaknesses.
They've been talking about his father the whole time.
He matures
until that point.
Some say that he matured in prison.
There was no mention of Yaakov, what his thoughts were about Yosef.
No. But he says, we're talking. We have to take the boy back to our.
But that's a different set of dreams. That's not the dreams of himself and his father. That's the dreams. The baker and the wine merchant.
Obviously, the father is still alive. Why would Yosef then say, "How would that be?"
Oh, separate question.
Yeah.
So I mean, with this approach, I think most would
not with any approach. Just why would Yosef at that point say, "How would that be chai?" When they've been talking about his father all along.
I think most understand that question being like, "Whoa, my father's alive," not like, "Is my father alive?"
So it's like a rhetorical question.
Yeah. So some understand it to be a tremendous statement of Musar. That's another approach to get into.
It's also a question that one would think that he would actually know a lot more than he actually does. It seems to know. The question of is my father alive? The fact that his father doesn't know he's alive is one thing, but the fact that the viceroy of Egypt can't find out the condition of Yaakov and his family is a very strange thing to me.
Well, I think most
it'd be very easy for him to know.
Yosef's statement of Ha'od Avichai is not a real question. If anything, forget having knowledge based on his position. It's also the brothers just told him a whole story that involves the father clearly being alive. So it definitely means something more than that. But okay, we'll end here. But it's a very interesting approach.
At that point, I don't think he wanted to expose himself. At that point, he didn't want to expose himself to say that is my father alive. Isn't that what?
Could be, right? I mean, that's why he kicked out all the servants in the room before he told the brothers who he was. Right. So that would also fit with that idea.
It's also clear. One of the things that's beautiful about this interpretation is that it seems clear, just from the shot of it, that he's lost control of himself. That he suddenly, it's like a burst of "get out of here" to the Egyptians, right? Because now I can't continue the act anymore.
That was a game-changing moment. Right?
At this moment I can't continue to play this role. I'm falling apart. It's, now that I realize Dad was not what I thought he was.
It's a cool approach.
It's amazing.
But this idea, I don't know if you heard of it before, that the pharaoh in power at the time was a Hittite. He wasn't a native Egyptian, and that's why he sort of needed an idea from secular culture. I'm not sure it's a Jewish idea, but the Pharaoh at the time was not a native Egyptian, but he was actually he's a Hittite invasion.
Well, what's the significance of that detail?
Just something I heard that's why that's why he was easy to rise to a position of power. I shouldn't say that, but it was supposed to play a role in helping to administer to these, because the Pharaoh would have been as much a foreigner.
There is a Rashi, I think, that mentions that
Because
Yosef sort of blackmailed
because he was a
Paro.
Semitic Pharaoh, not a Theban Pharaoh.
There is a Rashi that indicates that Yosef has some kind of blackmail info on Paro.
Yeah.
That kept him in power, that he knew that Paro didn't know all the languages that apparently Paro was supposed to know.
Right.
So Yosef kind of had that in his pocket to make sure he stayed in power.